It's time to take a break from nouns and the third declension and return to the verbal system, in particular, the infinitive verb. The infinitive is unusual in the verbal system. It is actually a verbal noun, and it does not express a subject. That's why it's called an infinitive. So whereas finite verbs will indicate a particular action performed by a certain person, a non-finite verb, an infinitive, does not express a subject. It really only conveys the verbal idea. We will normally translate this as too loose, although we do find the infinitive in certain kinds of constructions that will cause us to alter that translation. We'll look at those in the next lesson. In terms of form, the present active infinitive, there's simply only one, and let's look at these here. Present active infinitive is lu'ain or li'in. The middle passive infinitive is lu'esthai or li'esthe. So we don't have big tables to learn, which is good news. When we switch to the aorist, the first aorist is lusai or lisse. The middle is lusesthai or lissesthe. And the passive is lithenai or lithinne. You'll notice the characteristic sigma in the aorist active and middle forms, and the characteristic theta in the aorist passive form. Now these forms next to these represent second aorist forms. The second aorist, as you will recall, is formed by the aorist stem, but with present infinitive endings. So ballo with two lambdas is the present stem for this verb. Ballo with one lambda is the aorist stem. That's how we know that this is an aorist form, because you'll see that the ending is the same as the present infinitive form. But we know it's an aorist because it is a second aorist with an aorist verbal stem. The middle form is balesthai or balesthe. And then the passive form is somewhat different, blethenai or blithinne. This can only be derived if you know your principal parts and you learn that ballo in the aorist passive switches to ble or bli rather than bal. Next we turn to the perfect infinitives. The active form is lelukenai or lelikene. We'll notice the characteristic reduplication for the perfect in the infinitive, remembering that reduplication is not like the augment, which does not occur outside the indicative mood. The reduplicating of the perfect does occur outside the indicative mood. The middle passive perfect is lelusthai or lelisthe. Also, for the sake of completion, we have the infinitive of the verb imi or emi, which is einai or ine. So these forms are relatively straightforward. If we learn these, we have basically mastered the infinitive table. So the learning of forms is not overwhelming, as we see with, say, participles and other verbal forms. However, we will look at the next lesson and notice that there are a variety of ways in which the infinitive can be used. There's one other thing to note in this lesson, and that is the phenomenon known as the accusative of respect. Because the infinitive does not technically take a subject since it's infinite, there is no way of indicating a subject with an infinitive. The thing is, in Greek, sometimes the infinitive is actually used with a subject. The way that that's expressed is to use the accusative case, hence the name the accusative of respect. Now this can be confusing because we might have more than one accusative nouns in a sentence that involves an infinitive, and you'll need to work out whether one is the subject of the infinitive and the other the object, or vice versa. Really, context is the only way to tell. But that's just to alert you. When an infinitive does take a subject, it will be in the accusative, not the nominative case. And you need to watch out for that.